It is 7 o'clock on Monday, January 20th, and we'll call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
Here?
Commissioner Baker, Commissioner Bospis Rath,
Here.
Commissioner Collins,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Talentino,
Here.
Commissioner Twardy.
Here.
And Commissioner Baker called and wished to be excused, so we need somebody to, Commissioner Talentino.
So moved to excuse Commissioner Baker.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. On to item 4, mayor comments and general announcements. We'd like to welcome in the audience Brian Chapman's intern, Katie Smith, who is a poli-sci major at Lake Superior State University, and she's also president of LSSU Student Government. So if you'd stand, just wave. Thanks for coming. No. The only person in the audience that isn't here every time. Under item B is proclamations and recognitions, so I think we want to postpone that one since I-500 committee is not here yet. And item C, public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on any of the items that are on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Item D is the consent agenda.
Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of January 6, 2020. Item 2, acceptance of the Airport Advisory Board meeting minutes of December 12, 2019. Item 3, acceptance of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of December 5, 2019. Item 4, acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of November 6, 2019. Item 5 is acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of December 18, 2019. Item 6 is from the International 500 Project Incorporated, authorization to sell liquor on city-owned property for the I-500 snowmobile race on Saturday, February 1st, 2020 for the annual I-500 race, subject to the rules of the Michigan Liquor Control Commission and any rules established by the city manager. Item 7 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Is there any commissioner that would like any of the consent agenda items further explained or removed for individual consideration? So we need a motion. Commissioner Twardy?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Bospis Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Twardy.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you. E, special orders of business. We have none tonight. And under item F, communications, city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight for presentation to the commissioner, or the commission, is the DDA annual report. Director Nepper will come up, give you a brief overview. The report was provided in your agenda. If you don't have a copy, it looks like Justin has some copies.
Good evening, Justin.
I think I should be able to pull up a few items that Bonnie had for us. We have been working on with the Michigan Main Street program for, I think they were going on 4 years. Hold on one second, I'm just trying to remember how to, I used to think that I was really good at doing this, and now it's messed up. There we go. Okay, we've been working on much more, I would say, scientific annual reports as the Downtown Development Authority Sault Ste. Marie Main Street program. And Michigan Main Street worked with us to conduct an annual pulse poll that was done throughout the community. You might have seen a little bit of this already on Facebook. We had the most responses of any Main Street in Michigan, which I was pretty proud of, 1,198 responses. We conducted it between October and November. And this was really interesting information that helped us create an annual report, which we'll go through. This is a little map that shows where the responses came from. As you can see, many from Michigan, but around the country as well. Primarily, we conducted this poll online, Facebook, but we also sent it out to major employers in the community, the hospital, City Hall, the Coast Guard, and a number of other employers. Here in Michigan, you can see a cluster in Detroit that answered, as well as West Michigan, a little bit in Wisconsin and Ontario. And most of them, though, out of the 1,198, 700-ish were right from the Eastern UP. So we did get quite a few of out-of-town responses, but a lot in the community. Just to quickly go through this, we asked questions that hopefully some of you answered as well as the community, but so it might be familiar. The first question was, why do you visit downtown? 68% of responses visited for dining, with 850 new responses, and then shopping and work were both right at the top, and then festivals and events as well, just in fourth place. And there was 59 responses that had a lot of funny answers that you can see some of them in the bottom. The next question is events and festivals. Very interesting responses. The downtown farmers market was still the top ranked response for why people, what events and festivals people visited. Music in the Park and Engineers Day, those were the top three. And then you can see sidewalk sales was in fourth. Winter Ice Festival, Parade of Lights, Halloween Spooktacular, and everything else kind of fell in place under that. The next question was regarding the frequency of how much people visited downtown. Most people said it stayed the same. 54% of people visit downtown as usual, with 22% of respondents increasing their visits and 19% decreasing their visits. The amount of the next questions were specifically about what people would like to see in the downtown, and very interesting responses. A bakery has always been things that the community has asked for. 45% of people asked for a bakery. And then a fine dining establishment, a steakhouse was at 34%, and an Italian restaurant at 33%. And we actually have been working to educate the public about the community, the Christopher Columbus Hall's Italian restaurant, to help, I think, reduce that request, because they're pretty good. The following new or expanded retail establishments that would make you visit downtown, very interesting responses as well. A bookstore was ranked the highest, right after Book Road closed, and we've been working with Island Books and Crafts to really redefine their position in the community as the only bookstore. Arts, crafts, and hobbies at 25.9%, and a general and variety store, and that was something, an oversight on my part. I actually don't really know what that means, what people are talking about when they ask for a general or variety store, but we're going to read through the comments and figure that out. But 21% asked for, variety type store products. Women's clothing and a number of others are all there, but many of them line up to what are missing in our market. Describing recent trends, 49% say that downtown is improving or making progress, with 25% saying that we're staying steady, and 19% saying that we're declining. So that, I think, is a good example of the general understanding of how people perceive downtown, that we're moving forward. And then it moves into demographics. 68% of respondents were female, and 22% male. And really, I think many people understand a lot of downtown has stores and shops that appeal to female shoppers and customers, and so that was something that I think kind of reflected where we're at with our social media followers. And then age, many people, it was very mixed, from age 25 up to 64 was the main category of respondents. A little bit in the up to 74 bracket, which I thought was really interesting. And then very interesting as well, household income of those 1,200 respondents, people that made between 50,000 and 75,000 were our top respondents at 24%, with even higher incomes responding up to $150,000. And that's the primary information from the Pulse poll that was conducted. And so we'll go into the annual report, which I was very excited about, and hopefully you guys can see this. And then I'll pass out the hard copies afterward. But just really quickly, well, actually, I'll get in right at the end. I'll talk a little bit about how the people that helped us get this done and have helped us with such the results that we've had. So this annual report is a program that we partnered with the Michigan Main Street program. Great picture of Music in the Park. We had over 2,500 folks that attended the Petoskey Steel Drum Band. That's growing every year still. A lot of information on the first page about our mission, our vision, our goals. Very good details. This is meant both to be a report that can help folks with understanding what downtown is up to, what we're working on, as well as for business recruitment and retention to show new people what we have to offer. So it really shows you all of the amount of storefronts we have, the amount of residential units downtown. We did a detailed survey of every single business, 2,349 workers within the DDA district. The last report, I think 2 years ago, we were at 1,750-ish. So there is some growth in the downtown employee numbers. Our storefront vacancy rate is at 14%. It's a little bit high. It's definitely way higher than I would like to see, but you have to keep in mind a lot of our side streets have some very interesting and unique buildings. On the main streets, it's much lower, but with places like Lynn Auto Parts, the old Sioux Automotive, a number of those side street locations, we're still working on getting them to come back online. Very interesting percentage as well in terms of our property value increase. When the DDA first was created in 1984, 1985, we had a property value that was set with our tax increment finance districts at a base value, and from that value to today in 2019, in December when we did this report, we've increased 49% overall. It spiked much higher. In the early 2000s, we were probably up to 60 or 70% increase, and it dropped, and that's a lot of some of the financial challenges we've gone through, but we're still definitely much higher than we were in the early 1980s. The report also talks about some of the big things that we accomplished in 2019. We launched a marketing partnership with many businesses in town, creating a sponsor program that generated more than $40,000 last year to help us continue to grow and to not rely so heavily as an organization on pure taxes. That's looking strong going into 2020 as well. We also launched a partnership with downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and have a joint Facebook page and are working weekly with their staff over there to make sure that we're promoting businesses on both sides of the river. And finally, we partnered with the Community Foundation to create a garden sponsor program to help the city plant more flowers, beautify our gardens in the downtown a little bit more, and they actually brought in more sponsor money than they were expecting, and 2020 is looking really good for increasing the beautification in our pocket parks and gardens downtown. This goes through a little bit of information on what services we offer, quotes from owners. On the left side, you'll see in 2018 to 2019, over $285,000 in private investment took place, and since 2017, nearly $500,000, and that is not counting any of the projects that are currently ongoing. We could only include in the report projects that were completely finished. So there is over $1 million more that is wrapping up as we speak. 8 new businesses in this past year as well, and 4 facade improvements that happened last year. Our community profile, it talks a little bit about our median income, median age, all the different things that are available that the city has information as well. And then some other stuff that we had to really work on that I thought was interesting was our downtown drive times, which really helps for business recruitment. You can see within a 5-minute drive, 8,000 people are within that range for downtown, 11,800 in a 10-minute drive and 14,500 in a 20-minute drive. And it also talks about their income levels and the amount of households there are. Summarizes our in-demand businesses as well. And then this page talks about our social media, kind of the pulse of that we went over in that pulse poll regarding how many people visit, what they visit for. And then it also highlights our program with Lake State. We brought in the entire resident advisor team this fall to do massive cleanup and upgrades to all of our pedestrian alleyways that have been neglected for a while. And we had students that, it blew my mind. We were trying to figure out with over 40 students how to make sure that they all had jobs and work. And these guys, there were kids that actually took toothbrushes, wire brushes, and were on their hands and knees for 3 hours getting moss, weeds, everything you can imagine out of the brick pavers that they're standing on. And this just shows that resident advisory group after they strung lights up between Barish's and Gym 906. The amount of volunteer hours that were put in through the Main Street program in DDA, we track that every month now based on everything from who is volunteering to, like, for example, when we redid all of the Christmas garlands for all the streetlights, we had over 30 people working for 4 hours straight. All of that's tracked now. Over 1,900 hours were volunteered with 3,500 to date, and the value of more than $49,000 in volunteerism just last year alone. A little volunteer spotlight. Dana is still probably one of the most active volunteers in the downtown, constantly working on our behalf, and many others. We've had probably 20 or 30 key volunteers that are constantly working with no recognition on behalf of downtown, everything from gardening to decorating to helping with events and festivals. It also sums up there in the numbers our income and expenses and the percentage breakdown of how much the city supports us, as well as the tax increment capture from county taxes, and then where we're spending it on. As you can see, operations, the amount that's designated for staff and operations of the DDA is one of the largest expenses, but we're working hard, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And then a little bit more detail on specifically what we're doing in operations. The amount of people that attended our events and festivals, we have tracked with fairly scientific estimates the amount of people that attend our events and festivals, 29,682 attendance to our downtown-specific events. That's not including things like Engineers Day. That's not including more general events. This is purely DDA-oriented events, and shows some pictures. Paint the pavement on Portage, the splash pad that we launched for sidewalk sales, Halloween, and then just a little bit of information on Main Street as a whole. We're in our 4th year of membership, if you will, with the Main Street program, and this Real Impact shows the statewide amount of businesses, investment, and all those different things in the Main Street communities as a whole. So we're really excited about where Main Street and the Downtown Development Authority are going. I just wanted to mention a few things. Larry Jocks is from the Sioux Tribe, is our downtown board chair. He's been very helpful and a great leader, I think, for our board this year. And then our staff, we have a tremendous amount of other board members who are working hard. Our staff couldn't do it. Lindsay Ellis has been very helpful. I couldn't do it without her for the last 3 or 4 years. She is a rock star and is working hard running all of our events and festivals, allowing me to spend a lot more time on economic development items, grant administration, business recruitment and retention, and she is a huge asset. And the same thing for all of our partner organizations. The city has been the biggest funder of the Downtown Development Authority ever since our taxes hit some rough spots, and so the city commission, of course, you guys make everything happen. DPW is this year alone huge changes happened. Parking, when Oliver left as city manager, he reassigned parking to the police department and maintenance to DPW, and parking as well with the city clerk's office and city finance. And without Robin and Kristen and Chief Riley really running the parking program this year, it would have been a lot more messy than it was in terms of transition. And so I really wanted to say thank you to each of them for all the work they did to take that off the DDA's plate and really help us move forward. I think we're all trying to still figure out strategically how to make sure that parking is continuing to be handled in a way that's the most efficient and the most beneficial financially, but there's a lot of good movement there. And Dan Wires and Jim Morrow and a lot of the staff that are working with DPW have been amazing this year, helping us go from being, we had 2 or 3 guys minimum wage working to try to run the whole downtown from a maintenance perspective for the last decade, and with DPW bringing in their equipment, their staff, this year has been tremendous. Trash is being emptied quicker, things are being cleaned up more efficiently, and I think that is something that the downtown as a whole hasn't realized just how big of an impact that is for the city to take that on. And so I just wanted to say thank you to each of you guys for that. So a lot of big changes in 2019. 2020 is, I think, looking really great as well for downtown. A lot of new businesses. A lot of people are already working on opening new businesses and some of our vacancies by spring. Apartments are coming online. The apartments above Second Childhood and Sioux Brewing are about half done and should be ready by spring. That's nearly $1 million investment. The Woda Group projects, we're getting calls probably twice a week at my office from people asking if they can move in to those spaces, and the 4th floor is getting completed up there, and there's probably about 15 businesses ready to redo their facades and rehab their buildings and businesses this summer, and are kind of on waiting lists. One of the big challenges that we have is for all of our facade rehabs and programs, the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, funds those programs, but they have to look at our capacity in terms of our staff time and abilities, and right now we're not able to get more than 4 at a time, and we have to close out those before we get the next ones, and it's about a 2-year turnaround. So we're trying to wrap up Alpha Bar, Arfstrom's, and the interior of the McClellan building down on West Portage in the next couple months. There's just a lot of paperwork to do. Once that is closed out, we're working on a Sioux Theater grant, issues or projects with the Children's Museum on the horizon. Pingatore Cleaners is working on ideas for their building. There are a lot of the Sue Ann Wilkes and Jill Rambo are working really hard on a lot of Pat Cleary's buildings. So I think there's a lot of momentum that is right looking us in the next year or two, which I'm really excited about. So that's a hopefully brief enough annual report, and I really appreciate the Commission's commitment to downtown.
Thanks, Justin. That was a great report. In fact, that was longer than our last meeting. So I'm sure we'll have people with questions or comments. I think it's the research you did, and the report is very professional, and it's amazing, really. So anybody, Commissioner Twardy?
Just a few comments. I think for the people that are always volunteering and always involved, can see the day-to-day changes that are taking place. I'm hoping that people from outside of the vicinity, when they're coming into town, are you getting good feedback too? I feel like there's a lot of new businesses. I mean, I'm seeing changes all the time, but what kind of feedback are you getting?
I think one of the biggest things in any community, us locally, we can't see the same changes that someone that doesn't come here for a year necessarily sees every single day. When we're waking up in the morning, going downtown to work, or driving through, you don't quite notice the amount of difference that there is. And when I hear people from out of town or snowbirds come back and say, usually the comments are, man, this place is changing like crazy. It's, we love coming to Sault Ste. Marie. Very rarely have I think not probably for the last 4 or 5 years, the last out-of-town, tourist comment that I received that was maybe negative was probably 5 years ago, where a lady was complaining about the amount of leaves that were on our sidewalks that we hadn't swept up. And but otherwise, I really think that our big challenge is how do we make sure that our locals, we have, like the report showed, over 14,000 locals within a 20-minute drive. How do we make our locals realize what they have, why they should support our downtown, why they should come downtown and support our local, 208 businesses in over 140 buildings. It's I
Like
think
a
there's lot of
bookstore.
positivity.
I mean, what did Les say? He's up to like 29,000 books or
Yeah,
something like that
it's
now.
crazy.
I mean, and if he doesn't have the book title that you're looking for, he can have it in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really want people to be able to take advantage of having that at their fingertips
Yep.
here in town. Well, thank you.
And 1,300 parking spots.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? It's a great report, and thanks to the DDA and I think the Main Street. What an excellent looking annual report. I think one of the things from your survey that kind of stuck in my mind was 50% of the respondents thought things are improving. So, I mean, that's huge. And then 25% said they're, kind of staying the same. So that's 75% of the people that, are positive about it. So good job, Justin. Thank you. And already into the city manager's report. City manager, if you can read it on that tiny computer you got there.
So just before we get into the actual items, one thing to kind of point out, we changed the format of the template with the agenda items, so you'll see a couple new categories on there. Prior to the change, which a couple of the items still are under, it just says city manager recommendation, staff recommendation. We changed it up a little bit to be more informative, in my opinion. We added a category for some background information, fiscal impact, which is a little bit more if it's budgeted or if it's not budgeted. There may be a operational cost that's not necessarily accounted for, so a little bit more information. Alternatives, every option or every item, there are alternatives. One of the bigger changes is the new category of community outreach. Not every item, like a piece of equipment, would necessarily have community outreach to it. But if we do some form of community outreach, whether it be a statutory requirement or we're going above and beyond, we want to make sure we document that to tell the story to you guys, but also the public, that we're not just sitting in my office coming up with these ideas, that we do try to get some community input on these issues, proposals, or what have you. So a little bit of a change, so that'll be the format moving forward. But first and foremost, for commission consideration, is a request to approve the budget for this is really tough on this small screen, West Easterday Avenue Mill and Resurface Project. 80% of the funding will come from MDOT Small Urban Program. The total cost for the city's share will be about $100,000. Those funds are set aside in the major road contingency fund, major streets, capital preventative maintenance reserve. So staff would look for a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Thank you, city manager. Any questions for him or for him? No engineer. Commissioner Miller, would you like to make the motion?
Thank you, Your Honor. I move to approve a budget in the amount of $380,000 for the West Easterday Avenue Mill and Resurface Project, with 80% of the construction costs coming from the MDOT Small Urban Area Program, the local share of the project, $100,000 to come from the Road Contingency Fund, Maple Street Capital Preventative Maintenance Reserve.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bastos Raff,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty.
Yes.
Mayor Gary.
Yes. Motion passed. Thank you. Item 2, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For commission consideration is a proposal for the annual fireworks display, July 4th, 2020, 21, and 2022. The contract is a 3-year term. It is going up slightly than what we have seen in the past 3 years. The money is typically budgeted for, so we would look for a motion to approve the proposal as presented.
I know that they've been very popular, and I'm assuming they've been very good to work with. Any questions, Commissioner Collins?
Yeah, the 16,500 that is gonna cost in 2020, is that the 3-year cost? So that'd be the cost for each year?
It's the cost for each year.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Collins?
Do we know what the increase is that was over 2019?
Was it last year about 15,000?
It was 12,500 for the last 5 years. We had a price lock for 5 years, so when that contract expired, the new proposal is at this rate.
So on here, I noticed that they threw in a couple extra rounds of show, right? Is that gonna be over and above what we received last year? Do you guys know?
I'm not sure.
It's the same exact show that we've received for the last 5 years, but the cost has increased on fireworks display, and they could only guarantee the price for 3 years this time around.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Bosbus Rath, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I motion to accept the proposal from Wolverine Fireworks Display for the years of 2020, 2021, and 2022.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Yes.
Commissioner Tuorty?
Yes.
Mayor Gary?
Yes.
Commissioner Bosbus Rath?
Yes.
Item number 3, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For commission consideration is the receipt and payment required for a recent EPA violation regarding our wastewater treatment plant and our water filtration plant. The investigation started in about 2016. It's more of a safety and health type of inspection. The federal agent came to the plant, spent a couple days here, left, continue on investigations elsewhere. In 2018, followed up with a request for more information, and then followed up with that in 2019 with the citation. Staff and I worked with our legislative staff members to try to lessen the cost. We felt that a 3-year process on the citation was a bit ridiculous. It's not a quality of water issue or a quality of water being discharged into the issue or into the river issue. It was due to the way we process and handle the chlorine and the type of chlorine that we use. There is a risk, very small risk, that we could get fines in the future, but I don't think that's going to necessarily happen. The fine, it's an expedited settlement. In total is about $20,000. The actual fine itself could be about $45,000 a day. We fought it as much as we could, but in the end, we're just gonna have to pay it. So, staff would recommend a motion to approve the payment. There's 2 motions with this one. Motion to approve payment, $20,000 for the EPA violation, and a motion to authorize an increase to the budget amounts by $20,000 for said violations.
So expedited in federal terms is a 2016 inspection.
3 years.
Yeah.
Kudos to them.
So, any questions or comments? Yeah, and I think that's perfect and a good point. As the city manager said, it was not a water quality or a sewage discharge issue. It was an internal issue. So, good point. Commissioner Talentino, would you like to make 2 motions?
Yes, Your Honor. I make a motion to approve a payment of $20,000 to the EPA violation at WTP and WWTP resulting from a 2016 chlorine inspection.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Boskus Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino?
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to authorize an increase to budget amounts of $20,000 in sewer and water fund operational line items.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Talentino,
Yes.
Commissioner Tuarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Boskus Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you. Item number 4, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For commission consideration is the request to move and change some funding regarding the capital budgets. Staff has presented you 4 different documents that kind of show some of the movement. For the most part, there are some projects that we'll be carrying over to the next fiscal year, as well as some funds or some projects that we won't be moving forward with, and they'll be returning to their designated funds. One thing to kind of point out to the commission as you're looking through this is the number of projects that we are carrying over. City staff is currently engaged on a number of projects throughout the city and throughout the organization. I think this kind of highlights a lot of the work that we have been doing and continue to try to move forward on. Some of these things, just a note, started off 2015, 2016 or earlier, and we're still trying to chip away at some of these. Just something to be cognizant about as we move into goal setting. How do I go back in this damn thing? Sorry. It's a lot of specific accounting type of information. We do have the finance director here to answer any questions you may have. But we would look for a motion to authorize the return of capital project funds, the source funds for projects that have been completed under the budget.
Thank you, City Manager. Does anybody have any questions for the City Manager or the Finance Director at this time? Commissioner Collins?
Not really any comments. I just want to say how much I appreciate you guys taking the time to put this together. This is very useful and really puts light on the fact that you said the projects that we have going on and the time that our staff takes to make sure that these things are continuing to be taken care of. So I just want to say thank you for putting it together.
Good comments. An impressive 14-page list. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Collins, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to authorize the return of capital project funds to the source of fund for the projects that have been completed under the budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019, and accept capital budget carryover to the current fiscal year.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tuarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gary,
Yes.
Commissioner Boskus Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Collins,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Talentino.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you. Into item H, City Manager announcements and updates. And City Manager, if you could interpret your sideways print out for us, that'd be great.
So for commission review and any questions you may have is the outstanding project updates. On that document is a series of projects based on the goal session from last year and just some of the other projects that have been identified throughout the organization that staff is working on. We try to provide you updates. It'll be on the second meeting of every month. The updates are on the far right of the document. When it was updated is the third or fourth column. Fourth column, last updated. So we'll try to provide you guys these updates monthly. Also in my list, I will be out of the office January 24th. I'll be attending an MML board meeting in Lansing. Boy, I'm tongue-tied today. And throughout the next week or so, we're going to be working on the legislative priorities for the MML conference. We'll shoot you guys out an email for your review, but we'll bring it to the commission consideration in the next meeting or the meeting after that for group adoption as a tool to present to the elected officials down in Lansing. So if you have any questions.
Thank you. Again, a nice 7-page project update. Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Twardy?
Yeah, just a few comments. I want to say thank you for this document, because I think it's probably going to save a lot of time going back and forth between the commission and you, asking where projects are, what's the recent update with them. And it actually answered a lot of questions for me as to, yeah, wondering where things were at, so thank you for that.
Good comments. I like having it in one concise document rather than having the page through several. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. Matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the public that would like to make any comments at this time? Any of the 5 of you? All right. Matters presented by the City Commission. Anybody? Commissioner Collins.
I was reading on social media the other day, there was a question related to the health and delivery system in the county. It was more of a question to the county commissioners versus the Sault Ste. Marie Commission. One of the commissioners, I think, was tagged in it. I guess my question is there anything that we can do to help along, I guess, their health delivery system? What they're looking for is like more help with like home health type aid, things like that. Is there anything that we can do other than just talk to the county commissioners?
City Manager, do you want to tackle that?
It's a county program. I mean, I'm not even sure what the program all entails. I can have a conversation with the county to see if there's anything, but off the top of my head, I just don't know. I just don't know enough about the program or what the conversation was, but I can certainly look into it. But you're gonna tell me what it is again, health and,
This is Chippewa County Health
it was
Department's Home Health Service. At the very least, we could have a request in for information. Maybe somebody could come to our meeting and provide an explanation of what services they do have available.
yeah.
I think there's some confusion because there was a Chippewa County, Wisconsin mentioned in there as well in that post.
I believe so,
That
yeah.
was discontinuing and there were some others.
It was really kind of hard to follow what they were
Yeah.
actually looking for, but I just didn't know if it had anything to do with us. I mean, I knew it was the county, but I wasn't sure if there was any, like, co-agency thing.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything, but who knows what we can do.
Good question. We can find the information. Thank you. Any others? Commissioner Twardy.
Move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned.